Warning, the following podcast is rated 80s and may not be suitable for some audiences. It may contain strong violence, graphic sex, adult language, drug abuse, Cobra Kai, Reaganomics, and or televangelism. Listener discretion is advised. And now, Rated 80s presents Comics on Film. Hello to you all, and to the rest of you as well, coming to you almost live from the hilltop of the gritty city, presented in glorious 2.53 Stereophonic hi-fi MOOKIEVISION. This is episode 0 of Comics on Film. I am your host, Mr. Jeremy Whitman, with my co-host, Sergeant Rusty.
Sergeant Rusty.
A man who always gets a prefix.
Changes every show.
Every show, yeah, because you refuse to have a last name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just feels natural to have two words with somebody's name. Is that it?
It does.
All right.
Especially in the world of show business, because you're always introducing people by their first and last name.
Yeah, well, there's Cher.
Madonna.
Madonna. Yeah. Namely women.
Prince.
Yeah. Almost woman.
A lot of people. But it rolls off the tongue easier, especially in show business, when you introduce someone and you want them to know who this person is. Kind of a subliminal trick is you introduce them by their first and last name.
Yeah.
So, and you used to have a last name in the show business. You used to go by Mr. Rusty Shackelford,
which was
back in the days of Taboo and the Tacoma Comedy Underground.
Yep, I got it's because of the King of the Hill.
Yeah, I found that
Dale
out one
Gribble.
night watching late night reruns of King of the Hill, that Dale, while being arrested, gave the alias of Rusty Shackelford. And I was like, that's my buddy. Wait, that doesn't make any sense.
I'm a cartoon character. No, I didn't. I didn't really have a name. I didn't want
You
to go
don't
by
like
my real
your
name.
actual name,
No,
right?
no, not a fan. Not a fan at all.
Yeah.
It's just boring.
Can we say what it is on the air?
No.
No?
I could owe people child support.
All
You don't know.
Jay Moore. We won't tell people your name. Oh, this is good. We're less than a minute into our podcast. We've done like 11 in-jokes. So this is going to be our new podcast. We're calling it Comics on Film, a production of Rated 80s, which has its own story, because we've done, I think, 11 podcasts leading up to our first podcast.
Yeah. Let's get
we did a few.
It's like blowing a load before you go out so you don't mess up the date.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta.
This podcast will be only the most highbrow pinkies out humor, by the way, ever. So, I like movies. You like movies. I like movies
people.
perhaps more than is healthy for a human being.
I think so.
Yeah,
you're a bit more
study them too much.
Yeah.
Like, you should have gone to film school. No, I just really, because I wasn't allowed movies though in my childhood.
Yeah.
Did you have kind of the same thing? I know we both have kind of evangelical upbringings.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't even know if it was evangelical or Baptist. I don't even remember the denomination. Yeah.
Close.
Same stuff. Just highly religious. So there was movies I absolutely couldn't watch.
Which were
mostly horror
Human
movies.
Centipede and Human Centipede 3, but oddly not Human Centipede 2. So you missed that part where I am your father out of the Human Centipede trilogy. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to. My parents are evangelical, born-again, creationist Christians. And I was not allowed to watch anything. Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. And that will flavor this podcast in many, many ways, I think, in the years to come.
I think the both of us, probably, yeah.
But totally not allowed to watch all the best movies of the 80s. Like, all my friends had seen the RoboCops.
See, that one, for some reason, with my mom, it slipped through the gaps. I don't know how I ended up watching that movie, but I saw it a lot when I was younger.
Oh, yeah?
And it totally shouldn't. If my mom was around, there's no way that would have happened.
No, RoboCop is perhaps, out of mainstream movies in the 80s, the most violent and disturbing. It's way up there. It's up there with the Predators and the Terminators.
Oh, easily. I think it's way more gory than the Predator, personally.
Oh, yeah. They turn a man into windshield wiper fluid in RoboCop.
That's very
after
true.
He's dropped into toxic waste.
And everyone gets blown half a fucking mile away from where they actually got shot. And
it's not 5 minutes into that movie before you're taking a man's hand off with a shotgun because it's fun for the villains.
It is a great movie, though.
The 80s were a wonderful time for movies.
It was a magical land of rated R comedies, which that was nice. Those ended. Pissed about that. I mean, we have them now, kind of.
Rated R anything now is kind of gone. It's so rare. Like, in the 80s, you did not care about taking your child to a rated R movie because your child was just kind of a burden. and you wanted to see some Terminators, right?
And now all of a sudden people care about their kids. What the shit?
Like, it will emotionally scar my child to see, like, we're fine. All of us kids are, 80s and 90s are
We
fine.
turned out great. Keep listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw a bunch of movies when I was younger, but it was mainly like I watched a lot of not cutesy. I mean, they were completely right, like Short Circuit and Never Ending Story and just any of the Legend. Those I was like fantasy or anything sci-fi. I was in with Star Wars, of course. That's a granted. That's,
It's interesting to me, as a fundamentalist Christian's child, I was allowed to watch Star Wars, but almost nothing else with violence in it. And I don't know what it is about children that are male from the 80s, but we love violence.
Oh, yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
I got to watch Star Wars and The Karate Kid. Those were kind of the two harshest movies I could watch. They didn't let me watch Karate Kid.
To be fair, maybe your parents had a problem with blood.
Hmm?
Maybe your parents just had a problem with blood. Like, if you think about it, like, most, like, those two movies...
My parents had this weird, like, oh, we don't want you to watch He-Man. That's a weird, just a weird arbitrary thing.
Yeah.
Because the sword gave him power, and that was idolatry.
Okay, see, that was
very bizarre.
That was a bit further than my mom went, but
it's like that. I have the power phrase was too much, but I've been making up for the fundamentalist upbringing by just watching everything since 1998 when I turned 18 until this present day. I've seen as many movies as I possibly could.
Oh yeah,
and as many Terminators. Diminishing returns on those, by the way, after 2. And I've studied film as much as I could free on the internet, which you can do now through wonderful things like Red Letter Media's review of the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah.
Or the Down in Front podcast, which a buddy of mine put together in LA that talks a lot about heroes' journeys type movies and things like that.
Yeah.
So what we are here to do is make some jokes and talk about movies.
Goof off. Give an opinion.
See
what happens.
And if you're a long-haul trucker or a person who has a boring job, you have something to listen to that is not riddled with commercials for Aflac or AIG or something like that. So I love the idea of podcasting because anyone with a smartphone, we're doing this on something better than a smartphone, but anyone with a recording device can
we're doing it on 2 smartphones.
Yeah, we got Android and iOS. Cats and dogs living together.
Boom.
Total pandemonium. Ghostbusters was another one they let me watch for some reason.
See, that one really doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
That makes no sense.
They're just like, well, I guess we can't send him to bed at this point. We really want to watch Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
and
I remember, that was a no-go from my religious mom.
Ghostbusters 2, they wouldn't let me watch.
But Ghostbusters 1?
There's no logic to my parenting.
So if Lord of the Rings was out...
Maybe because Ghostbusters 2 is just a boring rehash of Ghostbusters 1, and they didn't want me to be let down in that way.
It kind of saved you a little bit.
So this will be our podcast, and we're going to talk about a lot of things that are quote-unquote rated 80s.
Yes.
Which means a movie that has breasts and violence in it for no reason.
Yeah.
Because if Good Will Hunting was made in the 80s... it would be that Good Will Hunting 2 from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. It would be that sort of... because the 80s were a very weird time for film.
Good Will Hunting was a hunting game
or whatever they call it. Even the children's movies in the 80s had David Bowie in them, or they had a horse drowning in mud and then a rescue by a dragon, or rats in a demon elevator. Like, everything was just terrifying in the 80s.
Or mutant everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Toxic Avenging, crane kick to the face, even though you can't have contact to the face. That's one of the rules of the Karate Kid tournament at the end of the movie. You can't punch him in the face, but he kicks him right in the face and wins the tournament.
He kicks him in the jaw. That is a major flaw. I never noticed that.
Oh, there's many, many problems with the Karate Kid.
Yeah. Have you heard that where they say it's actually Danny Russo's the bad guy?
I did watch that. That's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
Some wacky editing.
Still interesting, though. It's still fun.
You couldn't have the Karate Kid today because bullying features heavily in the Karate Kid. And bullying is worse than Hitler.
It would get rated R for
we should mention also, this podcast is not going to be your safe space. Yeah. We are not going to pull any punches because you might not like body shaming. In fact, if the term body shaming bothers you, or you've ever posted #body shaming, we don't need your fat ass ears listening to this podcast.
We don't need that type of pressure.
Yeah.
We're going to offend you. It's a given. At some point,
some of the things we say will be very, very offensive to everyone at once. And then some of the things we say will be offensive to just a few people who suck.
Yeah. And we were just using it in broad, general comic terms.
We are patriots, motherfuckers.
Yes.
And we believe that you should be able to offend people.
It is
and that's part of a free society. And if you want a safe space, stay home and turn everything off. And don't answer the door.
Wrap your kids in bubble wrap and make sure no peanuts are around them. And peanuts or penises.
Alliteration is inherently funny.
Yeah. So you've been doing comedy, what, like 13 years?
12 or 13. I started December 12th, 2002.
I wish I remembered that my date.
I know the date because I interviewed the man who hosted the open mic. And
nice.
He had it written down in a notebook.
Interviewed him for what?
My other podcast, An Oral History of Stand-Up Comedy.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. All right. Ron Reed, right?
Carl Wovenheimen was running that open mic, and he wrote down, Jeremy Whitman started December 12th, 2002.
That's awesome.
It's the only note he made in 30 years of running. No, I'm kidding. He has everyone's name written down. I wasn't that special.
Wow.
he has every open mic he ever ran.
Oh, that means I'm on his list
Yeah,
somewhere.
You're in there somewhere. My first
crazy.
night ever is recorded in there.
I would like to know my first time at Seattle Underground, because I started way down. I started in Tacoma first, and then eventually made it. But I don't remember my date. It was somewhere in January, February.
I knew because my sister got married that year, so I was able to pile back through his notebooks and dig it up while we interviewed him. It's very interesting because it was one of the... Was your first set doing stand-up comedy good?
No.
Mine was horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Just a train wreck?
The only person I know who remembers it happening is
Not
Mr.
you.
Douglas Gale, who is not a man who is shy about telling you when you suck.
Yep.
And I mentioned it like several years later, and he said, "Oh, I remember that. I thought I'd never see you again." Because it was so shyness and scared and didn't make any sense, and it was.
I remember when
bad.
you always had your side turned.
You're miming where I put my hand in my pocket and turned sideways.
You just turned sideways. Like
I was terrified of people.
Yeah,
and I described my first 2 years actually doing comedy as if while doing comedy, I'm also taking a post-rape shower, trying to wash the rape off my body because I was physically running from the audience as much as I could. I would be in profile to present the smallest target possible and do comedy leaning away from the mic and trying to get comedy out because I was terrified of people. Now look at me. I got my own podcast.
Hey,
yeah,
what do you know?
It could happen for you too. You could sink a bunch of money into microphones and stuff and then maybe have a podcast that you don't know how to put on iTunes yet. But we're going to figure out today.
Yes.
And so... What's your background in stand-up comedy, Mr. Rusty? How did you start it?
Sultry, even.
Yeah.
I just started. I started with Fred Bowski, another local comic. I just we were friends.
His real name is Jay Moore.
Yeah. Which is why he goes by Fred Bowski. But I just I heard in passing this girl. I was bouncing at a bar. I heard her in passing that there's a free open mic at the Tacoma Comedy Underground. You can do 5 minutes. You just sign up every Wednesday. And I called Fred and I was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing comedy?" And he's like, "Every day of my life." And so we just went down there and tried to start doing it. And we had every other Wednesday off from our job we share. We both worked at the same spot, and we'd go down and we would do a set. Or he tried it first. I chickened the hell out. He's like, "No, my buddy Rusty wants to try." And I was like, "Not this week, man. Can't do it." I totally bitched out. And
Did you have material ready?
I had like an idea of something I thought would be funny about making barnyard animal noises while fucking a chick. I don't know why. Yeah, no, it was horrible. It was so shitty.
What if a speak and spell had made love to a woman?
Basically, that was funnier than anything I had ready right there. That killed. And I legitimately started the bit when I got on stage, but I was so terrified that I started to say it, and I went into like the first I think I mood or something.
How old were you? Early
20s?
21.
Yeah, just old enough to be in there, and I started to moo or something, and totally realized it was sucking really bad, and kind of bailed on the bit. But it was the only bit that I had written down.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
where'd you go?
I went to light a cigarette back when
we started comedy. You could smoke cigarettes for the first couple years.
In the freedom days of smoking inside, when bars smelled better than Axe. Yeah, now it's horrible. But I could smoke, so I got so nervous with the screwing up the joke that I went to go light a cigarette. But here's the funny part: the only laugh I got,
did you light that cigarette backwards?
Fucking backwards. Fucking backwards. And I floored the entire audience and was so red-faced and ashamed
Did that save you, though?
It did, because it kicked me into a story about taking acid and smoking an entire cigarette backwards when I was younger.
I'm surprised you're not dead of cancer yet. My theory has always been that the cancer comes from lighting the 6 or 7 cigarettes backwards over the course of your life, because it's so horrible.
Like it's a roulette wheel. This one's good, this one, nope, cancer.
Yep. Well, smoking's delicious. Backwards cigarette tastes like cancer tastes.
It did. I lit it. They laughed. I was embarrassed. And then I started in with this story about lighting it, or like doing acid when I was a teenager and smoking an entire cigarette backwards. That's pretty much the story. It wasn't like a long story. I just mentioned that I did that, got a laugh, and I was like, I'm out. It's a good night.
Oh, yeah.
It was like
Sympathy
3
works.
minutes into my set, of a 5-minute set.
I miss the old Tacoma Underground. That's a very much you can't go home. I mean, I'm sure there'll probably be another comedy club in that space at some point before I die, because they keep putting a bar there for no reason, and they keep trying to shove comedy in that basement or upstairs or here and there. But it was just such a weird, magical... It was ladies' night on a Wednesday in a bar, underground. So if you wanted to have a date in Tacoma, Washington at that time, and you didn't want to spend any money on the person you're with, you would take them downstairs to watch comedy.
In a basement.
In a basement.
In a leaky, fucking smelly
people,
basement.
Oh, yeah, this building has been a club for a long time. It was a bank initially.
Yeah.
And there is a bank vault down there, and we did comedy in the bank vault.
Yeah.
You would go through a bank vault door, and there was a little stage built, and there was... water would run. So it's a 3-story. Water would run from the roof, somehow skip the dance floor level into the electrical box, and then out into the floor in the bank vault basement.
Tiling.
So we don't know. But it was, as a young comic, it was young people. You could play to young people.
And it was seriously packed. I mean, like...
Oh, yeah, when I first started the first year or so, it was 80 people in there at night in a room that I managed to one time squeeze by running upstairs and getting stools when I managed the place, 114 people tops into. And it's a room that I'm in the fire marshal, 114 people. We're closing this down. Like, it's too many people.
And still to this day, I don't think there was a better place to turn 21 at and be a performer. Because when you're 21 years old and you're telling jokes to an entire basement full of women, holy shit, did you pull tail. Like, that wasn't necessarily my goal.
Well, women pre-funking for a dance club. I am not ashamed at all to say I got into comedy so I could get women a little bit, because I was so shy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the only way I could talk to women at all.
Didn't have much of a choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no game.
Yeah.
But man, could I write a long, convoluted episiotomy joke.
That's why I call you the manifesto man.
A lot of people accuse me of like being serial killer or a manifesto guy.
No, we lived together. I know
and I only serial killed like 8 or 9 people you know.
All right. Well, that's a pass then. But we lived with each other for a hot minute. You rented a room from me, and I said like I owned the house now. It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
It was a shitty apartment.
Yeah, horrible.
Shitty.
Free cable though.
Free cable, and across the street from an A&W. I think that's when I started gaining weight.
That was
non-franchised A&W. If you're not from the Pacific Northwest, A&W is a. Are they local out here, or are they all over the country?
I think they used to be all over the country.
Yeah,
like it's
there's
like
less
a root
and
beer
less
place.
of them now. Sometimes they share space with a
Pizza
Kentucky
Hut or
Fried
Bell.
Chicken.
Oh yeah, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Like right up on 6, they got one with the Kentucky Fried Chicken. But it used to be like, it's a franchise, but it's sole proprietor. You use better grade beef. We make great hamburgers. We make our own root beer. You get amazing root beer floats.
That place across the street did it up, man. That was they were bad burgers.
They were privately owned. They were not part of the giant conglomerate of we're going to share space with another fast food joint, just so you know you're getting ripped off.
Yeah.
So this is a podcast about movies, obviously. We're going to talk about all kinds of movies.
This is like our X-Men origin story. How did you become a mutant? You know.
I got laughs one night at the Tacoma Comedy Underground. That was the 4th set I ever did, because you guys had bumped into me in Seattle and saw me eat it in a weird, like, I just want to talk to these people, because the 3rd set I ever did was I just want to stay up here for the whole 3 minutes.
Yeah.
If I can make it through the whole 3 minutes, and I've accomplished something, and you guys are like, oh, you're from Tacoma? You should come down, do some time at Tacoma Comedy Underground. And and I murdered it, actually, that first time I ever hit the stage in Tacoma, because it's so much simpler. It's a bank vault, so it's square. It's not laid out in the round. I just got up there and went for it.
It's a hallway.
Yeah, I went for it as hard as I've ever went for it to that point in my career. I think maybe ever. Actually, I don't think I ever
it's been
gone at it that hard. I was like, you know what, these people, there's a few times I've done that where it's like, I'm not going to let them beat me at all.
Yeah.
Do not care. It was a good night in general, and I fucking destroyed it.
Yeah.
It was so great. And everyone treated me like I belonged, and comedy's changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about movies.
Yes.
And we're going to make fun of movies, and we're going to point out the good things in movies, and we're not going to limit ourselves to things from the 80s or things from the 90s or a certain genre of movies.
Yeah, it'll be pretty much everywhere.
You're going to hear comics talking about movies. We got some guests lined up already at this early stage in our career. We'll have some secret episodes available only on the website talking about, these are beta episodes. We might redo them, but we got some, episodes we did in preparation for this, like God's Not Dead.
Yep.
And
God's Not Dead.
Dead Heat. God's Not Dead Heat. Actually, is the movie we're going to produce,
Heat's
which is
not
a Christian,
dead, God.
Christian propaganda film where Jesus comes back to life as a police officer to solve his own murder. So you should check out God's Not Dead and Dead Heat. And you send us your scripts for how you think to combine those two movies. They're amazing, amazing films. Do we need to talk about anything else in this intro podcast, this episode 0 to our Rated 80s?
Are we planning on doing movie battles where we pit one movie
We're going to do one
another?
in about 20 minutes. We're going to do a movie battle. Smoking Aces versus Rock and Rolla.
Yep. So if you're listening to this another time, find that episode after this one.
They'll be listening to this another time. This is not live.
That's true.
You have to download it.
Well, damn it. I know that.
Not a very technical person.
I need a beer.
All right. So we do hope you enjoy this. There'll be lots of everything. There'll be movie commentary, maybe political commentary in the midst of the movie commentary. Maybe there might be be crazy halfway famous comics we know and really famous comics we don't know that we somehow talked into doing this shit.
Yeah.
There'll be documentary films. There'll be all kinds of stuff, and it'll be good times. And we hope you enjoy it.
Yeah,
we really do. And if you don't, go ahead and keep that shit to yourself.
Yeah.
And if it offends you that I'm married to a lesbian, fuck off.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear the rest of that story, I guess you're going to have to keep listening to this podcast. And
we're going to get more personal, too, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Because like every other American, we think we'd be great at a morning radio show. But unlike every other American, we've invested, a lot of money into actually having one.
Yeah.
So we're going to do it. Do it up.
Unregulated by the FCC, which is a very important part.
Yeah. Fucking FCC.
Yep.
All right.
See you later.
This is Comics on Film, Rated 80s, signing off of episode 0. Take 2, 3, 4, or 5.